Bhopal, a city located in the heart of India between Delhi and Bombay, with a population of 1.5 million, is the capital of Madhya Pradesh state. It is also known as the site of the world's largest industrial disaster. In 1969, the Union Carbide chemical plant in Bhopal was established initially as a formulation facility. Seen as a source of employment for the local population, little did anyone foresee that this factory would become one of the greatest threats to the people living in the region. Initially operating by importing chemicals to produce pesticides rather than manufacturing chemicals on site, the factory began producing carbaryl using methyl isocyanate, MIC, in 1977 under pressure from the Indian government to establish a fully integrated chemical plant. Thus, the first steps towards the disaster that would affect millions were taken. On December 3, 1984, shortly after midnight, approximately 40 tons of lethal gas leaked from the pesticide plant in Bhopal, India. Methyl isocyanate, used as an intermediary chemical in pesticide production, drifted across the city, forcing nearly 500,000 residents into the streets in agony. Within days, thousands of people lost their lives, and since then, thousands more are believed to have died due to related health issues. Today, many survivors struggle with debilitating chronic health problems ranging from cancers to respiratory and neurological damage. The factory was equipped with 6 safety systems designed to detect such leaks, but none were operational that night. This failure exacerbated the scale of the disaster, releasing about 40 tons of poisonous gas into the sleeping city. As a chemical engineer working at the factory recalls, while repairing a corroded pipe that leaked water in the manufacturing complex, a series of valves malfunctioned, allowing water to freely enter one of the 3-tiered tanks holding the poisonous chemical in liquid form. Approximately 40 tons of water entered the tank containing toxic gas, triggering a rapid exothermic reaction when mixed with methyl isocyanate. This resulted in a violent and rapid reaction. The tank ruptured its concrete enclosure, releasing a large cloud of toxic chemicals. Methyl isocyanate is highly toxic, reportedly 500 times more toxic than cyanide and 5 times more toxic than phosgene gas used in World War I. This is further evidence of the magnitude of the disaster. As the toxic cloud quickly enveloped much of Bhopal, people began to die. Aziza Sultan, who survived the ordeal, describes it. I woke up around 12:30 in the morning to the sound of my baby coughing badly. I saw the room filled with a white cloud and dim light. Outside, I heard many people screaming. They were shouting, "Run! Run!" Then I started coughing, feeling like my throat and lungs were burning as if breathing fire. My eyes were burning. I could hardly see ahead. Shampadevi Shukla remembers, "It felt like someone had filled our bodies with hot peppers. Our eyes were watering, our noses were running, and our mouths were filled with bitter foam. The coughing was so bad that people writhed in pain. Some people stood up and ran no matter what they wore or wore nothing to save their lives. They instinctively tried to escape the painful environment. No one knew what was happening at the time, and everyone was running around. Some started vomiting uncontrollably and having convulsions. People started to die in the most disgusting way imaginable. Everyone was running in stampedes in narrow streets contaminated with gas. Many people died. The crowd escaped, leaving the children without their parents. Families were literally torn apart. After the disaster in the region, 500,000 people were exposed to toxic gas, and as a result, at least 25,000 people died until the exposure was completed in 1994. More than 150,000 people suffered from health problems caused by toxic gas after the disaster. Another survivor, Rashida B., was 16 when the disaster struck. At the time, she lived in a neighborhood near the pesticide factory with her 8-month pregnant mother, 3-year-old brother, and father. She recounts the moment. Neighbors were running and screaming, bumping into each other in panic. At that moment, I quickly woke up my family and we went outside. There were many people outside, all coughing. No one could see well, everyone was running around. There was a burning air that hurt our eyes and lungs. It felt like someone was burning hot peppers, she recalls. She and her family tried to escape the gas that was suffocating their neighborhood, but the crowd and chaos meant they couldn't get far. She recounts waiting by the roadside until morning. By the end of the day, Bai's family and her 3-year-old brother were among the thousands who died. One of the unforgettable painful details was seeing the 8-month-old fetus in her mother's womb move until the next morning. She says, "Those who survived that night are described as unlucky. The lucky ones were those who died that night." Following the disaster, Union Carbide abandoned the site and left it to rust. The decaying facility was never cleaned up, and contamination continued. In 1999, tests on groundwater and well water near the site revealed mercury levels 6 million times higher than what is considered safe. The water is highly polluted, containing chemicals that cause cancer, brain damage, and birth defects. The area was never cleaned up, clean water was never provided to the public, and the company never shared any information it had about the effects of the toxic gas with the Indian medical community. The local population was left to their fate. The Bhopal disaster led to prolonged legal battles. In 1989, Union Carbide agreed to pay $470 million in compensation following a settlement with the Indian government. However, this compensation did not fully address the impacts of the disaster and was deemed insufficient for many of the victims. Moreover, the long-term environmental and health effects of the disaster persist. Contaminated water sources and environmental damage remain issues, and health problems continue to afflict the population. Among those affected by the disaster, genetic damage and birth defects are frequently reported.